Hello everyone, I finally picked up the Polar-Lights 1/350 scale original series Enterprise kit, and I actually bought this while I was on holiday in Indonesia. I didn't find a kit over there, I just bought it for myself, so it was waiting for me when I got home, which was quite exciting. What I decided to do, of course, was light it, because this kit is really quite huge. I've made a wee start on it here. As you can see, I've already primed the inner surface of the saucer section, painted some flat black on there for light blocking, and I've put a sort of thin coat of flat white on there just for some light reflection. You can use silver as well. I don't really know what is technically better, though I don't think there's been a paper published on that in the modelling community yet. I think white would be, because of it's less refractive than silver, but I don't know. I haven't been as pretty with my coat of white. I just don't think it's that necessary, but I've also, the main thing I have done is made a start on the Bassard lighting, and I'll talk about the lighting for a little bit. While I was on holiday, I knew I had this kit coming, and I wasn't sure. I knew I wanted to light it, but I wasn't sure what route I would take, whether I would buy the lighting kit or get an actual, the lighting kit produced by Round 2, or if I'd get an aftermarket one, pretty much. I do know that the aftermarket lighting is of a higher quality and it looks better, but the other and of course there is a little more expensive as well. But that aside, my main factor was I'm about to start another season here at work, and if I went that route and sort of did a lot of the lighting myself, and the aftermarket lighting I'm talking about is the Bassards and things, I'm not really talking about everything else. If I did that and I just sort of used SMDs and I constructed the lighting system myself, I would likely never finish the thing. So what I did was I just made a wee compromise. I bought the Round 2 lighting kit and decided to go with that too. And I know the lights are of slightly less quality, they require a little more finessing, but I really I would like to have this model finished. There's nothing I hate worse than starting a model and not finishing it, and I'm sure a lot of you agree. So I'll come in a little bit tighter and talk about the details of what I've done. So here's just a close-up of the paintwork I've done on the saucer. Tonight I'm actually about to start installing the lighting on the saucer section, but I'll just pan across to the Bassards. So I'll talk about those for a second. Just secure my camera. So I've got these all wired up and they're all connected to the board. They're pretty good pieces, they fit really nicely. Part of the appeals of this kit is there's no solder required. I'm of course going to solder some things, because why spend this much on a kit for something to fail just because you haven't soldered anything. But here's one of the Bassard collectors. Now the spokes I have in there are green, and don't worry, that's because I just wanted to see what the fan blades would look like. I was just a little bit impatient. I don't have Photo-etch fan blades at the moment. And actually, speaking of Photo-etch, I'm also waiting on the Paragraphics Photo-etch set, so that makes masking things like the shuttle bay a lot easier, so I'm looking forward to getting those. I can't remember if they include fan blades or not. I kind of hope they do, because I do like the look of... I just don't want to paint these that much. So all I used was, and that was a little hard to get off, all I used was some pinstriping tape, and I just put it on there. Just temporary, just to see what it looks like. In any event, I've got the board hooked up. These are the stock motors. They're a little bit noisy, but I think Boyd Crompton from Trekworks has a good video on how to sort of muffle the sound a little. One thing I will point out with what I've decided to do with the colours of the lights, these smaller ones are, I mean, they're all white LED, warm white LEDs, and you have these coloured parts, and a lot of people I've seen use these smaller sections, these here, and they put all the colours in these ones as well as the Christmas tree lights, which is really cool and that's fine, but I was playing around with it and I actually didn't realise that this kit came with these, and I hooked it up, put my dome on, and I really liked the warm white LEDs mixing with the larger coloured ones. And I have since tried it with the colours on the smaller receptacles as well, and I think it actually looks a little closer to the original. I'm using a combination of all the colours, mostly red and orange, and I've got one green and one blue. I really like the look of the blue, by the way. I think it's very cool. So we've got the board here. I've protected it from any possible shorts just temporarily with a bit of tape. I watched Jay Clardick's video series on his build, which was immensely helpful, as was Boyd's, and he fried a few of his boards, so I kind of want to avoid doing that, and one of his ideas was to use some tape on the back, so I've done that. I'm kind of going a little bit all over the place with regards to the instructions, and that's partly because I don't have the Photo-etch set for the shuttleway, so I don't want to try lighting that yet, because to light it you have to have it assembled, and I don't have it sort of painted yet. Same with the bridge. So what I'm going to do is light the saucer section and then the neck, and I'll proceed to do the secondary hull as well. But the instructions are pretty good, they're pretty decent. It's you know, it's lighting for dummies really. Having fun with this. So let's move on to getting the saucer section lit, and I'll tell you if anything goes wrong along the way. Right, so looking at the instructions, I sort of decided to go with the neck first. So basically you get a roll of this nice LED tape here, and it's really nice. I wish I could get this in New Zealand easily, but I have not seen any. The only LED tape you can get here has this really terrible waterproof casing all over it, and yeah, different design. In any case, I've already cut off 2 strips as called by for the instructions, and they kind of mount on these sort of raised blocks inside the neck. So the instructions call for cable G to be attached to one LED strip, and this is labelled G, so this will hopefully be helpful to anybody who's thinking of getting this kit. And the second instruction calls for cable C, which has these 2 non-solder connections to attach to the next LED strip. And I believe you loosen it by detaching it, making sure positive, positive, negative, negative, and just slot it in and tighten, and that should be all connected. And I'd prefer sort of to solder things because it's a little more stable, and I'll actually go back and I'll remove the 3M tape, but just for demonstration, this is sort of what you do, and this will connect to this strip, and then you can mount them. And I'm going to just use a combination of maybe epoxy. I thought about hot glue, but I don't know, it's a bit bulky and unwieldy, so maybe some epoxy just to make sure these things never move and this never gets irritated. So I'll proceed with this and get them mounted down, and take a little more video when we've got the windows in. So cut to about sort of 10-13 minutes later, I've got everything sort of wired up to the secondary hull board, and I've completed the actually I was just, before the last segment, I was just about to install the LED lighting and I realised I hadn't finished my light blocking yet. So I really quickly sprayed some black on and then some white over top of that while speed drying it. Got my LED harness in really easily, and really quickly dull coated the backs of my window inserts with this stuff, Tamiya flat clear, and super glued the windows in and didn't need to worry about fogging, and hooked it up to harness G, which goes straight to the secondary hub board, and now we have lighting. I will open this back up again to do some finessing to secure all the leads in place, but it's sort of a polished mock-up at the moment, but I really just wanted to show you before I go and spend some time with my fiance and have a cup of green tea and watch some Star Trek, the original series season 2, which by the way I'm reading in parallel with my These Are the Voyages book. Anyway, so here we go. Really exciting. Really love this. This gives off the perfect, the perfect brightness, the perfect rich 1960s big bulb colour that we're looking for. These facades are looking great, and I did forget to show you them in the last segment, unless I reshot some and put it back in there, I don't know. But here's what I'm talking about with my, again, really rich gold 1960s style bulbs, contrasting with all the colours in there. And by the look of the footage, the camera is slowing down the rate of the twirl, which kind of looks like a low power mode. We'll have to see what that looks like on YouTube, but ignoring the green there, here's a look at one without any blades, and you can see exactly what the lights look like. These look amazing. I'm just really happy with this. I'm really glad I got the lighting kit, because this would have taken me twice as long to sort of hook up just from my own materials, so I'm really happy about that. Tomorrow, I ran out of time tonight, but tomorrow I'm going to be doing the same for the saucer, and if it's anything like this, it won't take me too long, and before I know it, I'll be sort of painting, hopefully. I just love the look of that. That is so cool. That's 1960s TV right there. There's a couple of coloured windows I need to add. I believe some red and green ones, I think. I'll do that before I seal everything up. So I'll catch you on the next sort of segment. So I'm getting a little more done on my 350 scale Enterprise, and I thought I'd sort of stop for a minute and talk about what sort of shape the kit's in at the moment. As you can see, it's mostly all together, but it's taped together, and the reason for that is making sure. I mean, basically, I have the lighting system pretty much installed. I'll show you that in a minute. But I have it mocked up because I'm drafting out where I'm going to secure my wiring so that it never moves. The drawback to the lighting kit is that it's not very permanent if you don't take the correct steps to ensure that it doesn't move on you after you have the model sealed up. The obvious plus though is it's more immediately user friendly, because you can sort of just plug and play essentially. But what I'm going to do is I'll be securing it with some hot glue, all the connections, to make sure that things never move, and maybe even a little bit of epoxy in places. And I also wanted to see fit issues as well, like how much more junk can I fit inside the hull, basically, especially with regard to the shuttle bay, which I have not built yet. My next step is, I already have all the windows in, so what I'm going to be doing very soon is finalising the lighting system, getting it all all sort of public, or not public, but all in place with hot glue, masking off all the windows with a combination of tape and liquid mask, and then starting to airbrush my colours. But before I get to that stage, I still need to construct the shuttle bay and detail the bridge. Now the exciting thing that came in the post yesterday, which I don't know if I've mentioned, about the Paragraphics Photo-etch set, and I got that in the post, and it's really, really beautiful. What I might do is I might get in a little bit closer and show you the set. So this is the Photo-etch set from Paragraphics. You can get an upgrade Photo-etch set that comes from round 2 with less detail in it, but I didn't want to, because I think that set comes with a supplemental set or something. Anyway, the point is, I think you have to buy a whole bunch of other crud that I don't need just to get the etch. I just wanted to splurge out and get the lighting kit, and I thought I would just sort of be a bit more cost effective and go to Paragraphics. It was a little hard to find this set. I know you can get it on places like eBay, but I live in New Zealand, so I need something that can be posted here, which is why I don't shop on eBay, because quite often, for a model kit for example, you spend more on the model kit getting the thing posted. Anyway, I got the etch set in the mail yesterday, and it looks really nice. You've got, come a little closer, you've got bridge details here. Yeah, and I wonder if it will focus for me today. You've got bridge details here. Now the card is slightly bent, but I don't think that's going to worry me too much. So I have production bridge details and pilot details, and the pilot view screen and production view screen, which was a really cool touch. Consoles, shuttle bay, detailings, and quite like the smell of this actually. And when I actually got the etch set, I was disappointed because it didn't look like it came with fan blades. But I just watched a video, an HDA Modelworks video, and these are indeed the fan blades. So I'm really happy with that. That'll be what I'll be doing next, specifically, because at the moment I just have literal pinstripe tape on one of the facades just to see what it would look like. So I could get a feel of what you'd be able to see when the motor is actually running at top speed. So I'll be installing the Photo-etch on the Nacelle domes, and I think I mentioned this in one of the previous segments about my colour choices for the facade lighting. I'm actually going to tighten up and explain a little bit about those, because I've changed them. So here we are, a little bit closer on the facade collector, and you can see the green pinstripe tape I have there just temporarily, and I've just got all this dry fitted, so I'll take that dome off. Oh, and I frosted this with Tamiya flat coat, if I didn't mention that already. I'm tossing up whether or not I should paint over either over the top of this or on the inside with a clear copper or orange or something. Because the white frosted, sort of when it's off, kind of looks a little dull. I mean, I want this to look like the Enterprise even when it's off, so that's something I'm going to be looking at doing. I'll take the inner dome off. Okay, so what we have here is the Christmas tree style lights. So I'm just repositioning here, and what I decided to do, originally I had these surrounding lights. I didn't have any colour there, so I decided, after looking a little more closer at the original prop and doing a little bit of research, that these actually had the sort of the green and orange and blue colours, while the ones in the middle were predominantly what I could see orange. And I do have one red one in each one. And instead of sanding every single one of these, I just hit the let's get rid of some of that effect on the screen by turning down the f-stop. I just hit this with a coat of flat, which I don't know where it is at the moment. Here it is. Yeah, just your wee can of flat. And I did lose a little bit of the silver effect, but in all honesty, painting this silver does nothing to reflect any of the light, because the light just doesn't go down there. So yeah, I'm quite happy with how the facades are coming out, and I really can't wait to get the Paragraphics etch. Paragraphics, that's funny. Etch on these parts, because these look kind of comical. So I'm going to spin around to the bridge at the moment, and I'll chat about that a second. So we'll talk about the bridge dome for a second. I have the clear light kit place in here, and I've light blocked the bridge itself, and of course the BC deck. And I've decided that I'm going to have my bridge facing forward, and I honestly can't for the life of me remember how much I sort of talked about this already, but basically there's a bit of a trade-off about the orientation of the bridge, and I bet most of you are familiar with this argument. Basically the interior set does not line up with the exterior set, and my logic for having the bridge facing forward is you have to look at both the inside of the bridge and the outside at the same time, and you're going to notice it's going to look stranger to have the bridge this way than it is this way, despite the turbo lift being obviously there, because maybe most people wouldn't notice that that's what the hell that thing is. But my chief reason is because in the pilot episode, the cage, you get a good view of where the bridge is actually orientated, and it's clear the producers intended for the bridge to be facing forward, despite the fact that this doesn't work. And actually I have read that the reason the set is offset in the show is not on purpose as such. It's because I guess the first director they had in there really discovered that staging wise and scene blocking wise, they needed to have the door this way because the camera was facing kind of in this direction here, and it just looked better. They didn't care about how accurate it was, because in the 60s, who's going to notice it? It's just a crappy sci-fi show, right? Anyway, so I have the bridge dome in there. I'm about to start installing the Photo-etch, but I'll do the facade first, and I'll be doing the bridge dome and building the shuttle bay at the same time. So I just have the bridge taped in there at the moment. I have on all the parts frosted the inside of the windows so that they transmit light better, but I will show you a lit up shot of this model at the end of the video. But as you can see, there's a bit of a mess in here. I've really got everything drafted in here. I didn't want to screw this down yet because I want things to move if something comes undone. But basically, I'm not going to glue this bridge dome on because it fits so well. I'm going to have it as an access door in case I need to replace anything, because the effects board really just it mounts right in here, and I can change out most things. And same with the secondary hole board too. That's quite if I can make the deflector dish removable, I'll also be able to get to that as well. So I think that's about it for the bridge dome. And here's a shot of the secondary hull too. There's something, I don't know what it is, but there's something I really like about looking at a model like this. Especially if it's a studio model, I really enjoy seeing the guts of a model, the reality. And in fact, I may include a picture, but when I was working on this, getting the sub-assemblies together, and I was adding more and more circuits to the ship, I really felt kind of like, you know, I could sort of see, actually my brother said he felt like I could see Scotty in there somewhere, because it's starting to look quite complicated in there, and it's really kind of cool. It's the magic of miniatures. So maybe that's why I'm having such fun building this project. But as you can see here, this is a secondary board, and as the instructions call for, you spill them out the front until everything's wired up, and eventually the power connector gets put right back in and feeds out through the bottom. But I haven't done that yet because none of this is actually really in place. The stand was a little bit of a problem. The brass rod which they give you, which is really awesome, it fit very tightly into the mount. So I really needed to hog it out with a file and some drill bits and things to get that to sit in, because if I ever want to take the model off the stand for any reason, I don't want to be forcing it at all. Pardon me. And in fact, I still have to loosen it up a little bit. I need to just be able to lift the model out with because when you start struggling, that's when seams get broken and when curse words start getting uttered. So we don't want any of that. One thing I forgot to mention about the Bassard collectors, actually, I'm just remembering, is Boyd Crumpton from Trekworks has an excellent series of videos on the building of these kits. He's a complete pro, he's built many of them, and in fact his videos have been extremely helpful, so I just want to thank you, Boyd, if in fact you are watching for some reason. What I was thinking of doing is, even though the sound of the Bassards isn't as bad as I was thinking it was going to be, it's still kind of annoying a little bit, and I kind of wanted to get that sound down as much as possible. So basically the way I'm building up the Bassard collectors is so that I can remove anything if I need to for the future. I don't want this model to be a write-off after a few months if something happens. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of soundproof the nacelles. I have a lot of this this foam, and you've probably seen in my videos that I build a lot of my models on. I have a lot of that stuff, and I'm probably going to cut up some strips and insert them long ways into the nacelle, into the nacelles themselves, because I'm not doing the blue lighting there at all, so I don't need anything in there. And the Velcro idea around the motors themselves is interesting, and I probably will do something like that too, because I've turned this thing on 100 times already. I love it. It's fantastic. So I think I'm going to cut to a wide shot now and show you everything lit up and moving, and we'll talk about what's coming next. Alright, here she is all lit up, and I cannot get enough of looking at this, even though it looks very haphazard and the rest of it. And you can see, I can even see on the monitor here, you can actually really make out what the cages look like, or what they will look like compared to the other one there. And I think it looks great, and yeah, I'm glad that I changed the LEDs around. Well, I'm glad I changed the clear parts around so that they're more orange with the colours surrounding, as opposed to the colours surrounded by warm white LEDs flashing on and off. So I'm really just finalising the lights at the moment, and I'm going to start locking everything down, as well as adding obviously the Photo-etch to the Bassard collectors and building the shuttle bay. And actually the last thing I did on it was I installed the lighting circuit for the ion pods on the sides right next to the shuttle bay, those flashing ones. I just added those a few hours ago, and there's nowhere for them to mount actually. You just sort of have to, and they're a little difficult. I don't really want to bend them either, so I'm probably going to end up epoxying those LEDs in place instead of using hot glue, because I never want those to come undone, because it will just ruin the look of it. The strip lights are should be fine, because, like, you know, obviously they're on flat surfaces, they're probably not going to go anywhere as long as they're secured well enough, but those single light LEDs that fit onto the ion pods and also the bridge and the shuttle bay, actually, they're the same kind of setup. I'm probably going to try and use something a little more permanent, because, you know, it'd be tragic if something came loose. Right now I have the ion pod LEDs seated on the bottom of the bay itself, and that seems to be okay for now. Overall, I'm having, so far, a lot of fun building this one. I mean, I have fun building all my models, but this one is a different kind of fun. It's kind of hard to describe. I'm just really... I've always wanted one of these models of the Enterprise this size. There's a photo of William Shatner as Captain Kirk holding up the 33-inch studio model, which was built for the cage. And I used to look at that photo as a kid, and the meta-ness of it really struck me before I even knew what the word meant. Just the idea of the character holding a model of the ship that he commands fascinated me on so many levels, and also sort of lit the fires for my interest in miniatures that would sort of start to come into fruition later. And maybe that's what it is. It's because it's literally pretty much the same size. There's only a couple of inches difference, so it's pretty much the same scale. The other thing too is, sadly, my our cat passed away a couple of days ago, and he was only a sort of a young cat. He was only 4 or so. We got him from the RSPCA, and he was the coolest cat I've ever had. I've always had cats, and he's been my very favourite. And he was struck down by an illness while we were on holiday, and it really, I couldn't believe how weak he was, which it was really hard. And I don't want to go on too much about it, but his name was Leonard, and he was obviously named after Leonard Nimoy. And so coming back from Indonesia from holiday was a really sad time because of that. Luckily, we got to see him before he went. I think he held on until we got home, and he sort of held on for 3 days and then went. And this model has been a really good distraction, and I'm glad that I'm having as much fun building this despite the sad circumstances. So I'm quite happy with that. So I think we'll probably end this update here. I don't want this video to be too long or anything. I just want to show you guys what's going on. And I'll probably come back in the next video for some fun with Photo-etch. Thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.